Donald says, if Russell Martin can negotiate Rangers to progression in the Champions League, he deserves all the plaudits that come his way. However, I just don't think his squad has had time to truly get into the way it's been suggested he wants them to play. The qualifier has come too soon after pre-season. Eddie says, I'm surprised by Keith Jackson's statement about Martin being given time. That doesn't happen in the old firm. You have to hit the ground running. If Rangers go out of the Champions League at the first fence, the first nail will be hammered into the manager's coffin, lose the first game against Celtic, and the Americans will be on the phone to wee Barry. What do you make of
that? I think there's an element of truth to much of that, in terms of it feels like a big ask, and we were mentioning this towards the tail end of last season, that Rangers were already getting behind the 8 ball going into the summer, and he's done a lot of work, and it'll be fascinating to see how that translates to style of play on the pitch. Is there a noticeable difference? You would imagine certainly Russell Martin will be hoping so. So that's going to be fascinating to see how it gels, how it clicks, how the pieces fit together. But it does feel a little bit, if I'm perfectly honest, it feels like too much too soon. This Panathinaikos doubleheader, I just feel that, the odds have been stacking up against Russell Martin since he came into the position, because there was so much work that was required to be done. And look, I think they've made a good fist of it. They've brought in 7 new players. I would imagine, although the kind of Rangers games, most of them have been behind closed doors, so it's difficult to gauge what stage he's at in terms of implementing his idea and his strategy and how he wants the game played. We'll see that with our own eyes tomorrow night. And that'll be a fascinating first indicator for the level of work that's gone on over the last few weeks. I think Rangers fans, I was going to say, I think they will be satisfied if they can see signs of the direction of travel. If they can see signs that this is contemporary, it's completely new, it's like nothing they've seen before. It's exciting, it's front foot, it's high energy, intense. I think that might be enough to keep them on side, even if the result isn't a terrific one over the 2 legs. But I come back to it, Daniel, that draw earlier on today and the way that the cards have fallen there, Rangers could really do with getting through this doubleheader. I don't know how good Panathinaikos are. Andy was saying they're not ripping up any trees this summer. They might be a fairly average Greek side, and you would like to think that Rangers could get ahead, get some early momentum, and do a bit of damage in the home leg. But there's just so hard to tell. No. And for that reason, I've kind of gone 1-1. I just think that, as I said, too much too soon. I think it would be almost impossible to get this Rangers team ready for this game at this point, given the amount of turmoil there's been in terms of turnover of players and new recruits and trying to implement this new style of play. I think it's a big, big ask. If Rangers can get anything better than a draw tomorrow night, then I think Russell Martin should be delighted. And I think the fans will be delighted, because they have to understand, and this is what I said last night, Daniel, there is a requirement for patience and time here. Whether or not Russell Martin gets it, I'm not sure. But it's certainly what he's going to need. And he could buy himself a bit of breathing space with a good performance and a good result tomorrow night, that's for sure.
Our pal Gianni's been in touch. He keeps going on about if you're going to be at Ibrox tomorrow night. He says, will Keith be welcome back to Ibrox finally tomorrow night?
No.
Excellent, we can move on for that.
No, because we've got a show directly after the final whistle, haven't we?
Exactly, and hopefully...
And it's where to come to discuss the events, and if you want to have a bit of a rant, have a rant. If you're pleased with what you see, come on and say it.
Absolutely.
But we'll be here to dissect every kick of the ball on Hotline Live tomorrow night from 10 p.m, Daniel.
Darren is insistent that it'll be 4-0 to Rangers tomorrow night. Druzy Boy says, Panathinaikos have had 2 friendlies and lost both. They're behind Rangers in pre-season as the Greek League starts mid-August. Rangers will beat them. And a couple of more.
But it's so difficult to tell, because we've not seen what this Rangers side looks like.
I know. It's so tricky.
Put it this way, what I did see was the first 45 minutes in the first pre-season game. You can't judge anything based on the first pre-season game, but they weren't that impressive. I was looking for signs of what the changes would look like, how Russell Martin's signature looks on this team. Couldn't see it in the first half. They were much better in the second half. So, maybe working. This is exactly what it is. Rangers are a work in progress. Now, the second leg in Athens, Andy was touching on it, they're expecting it to still be 35 degrees at kick-off time in Athens. This place is scorching. So if they can take the heat out of it, if you pardon the pun, in the first leg, get a couple of goals in front, give themselves a bit of breathing space going into the second leg, then I think that'd be a real achievement. But I just wonder if it seems like a really big stretch to think that Russell Martin, from a standing start, is in a position to get a result like that in his first game.
Yeah, and that I know you've mentioned it, but that Europa League draw is a killer because
It's
Rangers
a stinker of a draw, that one.
Rangers fans, I don't know if they'll admit it, but it may be Russell Martin, I'm sure he wouldn't admit it, but to be forgiven for thinking, look, if we get Europa League in this season, it's pretty good considering the rebuild the clubs had to go through. But Besiktas or Shakhtar Donetsk, just about as bad as it can get as a draw.
You just sort of know, don't you? It's going to be Besiktas.
Aye.
And Istanbul, and a total hotbed. And the temperature again is going to be ridiculous, and there's a whole bunch of travelling involved. Getting there and back, it seems as inconvenient a tie as Rangers could possibly give. And how's your luck, Russell Martin? But that's what I'm saying. If you can take all the pain away by putting Panathinaikos out, because I think they've got a really favourable draw if they do get past Panathinaikos in the next round of the Champions League qualifiers. I think that looks achievable. So for all these reasons, if Rangers can take care of business against the Greeks, then they'll be in a good spot.